Let me ask you something. How many times have you swallowed your voice, ignored your gut, and said yes when everything inside you wanted to say no? How many times have you played the role of the nice guy, thinking it would earn you love, respect, or success, only to end up ignored, taken for granted, or forgotten? Here's the part nobody really wants to admit. Being the nice guy doesn't move you forward, it holds you back. The moment you stop playing that part, everything starts to shift. Being the nice guy is often confused with being kind, decent, or honorable, but the truth hiding underneath is that it's rarely about true kindness. It's usually fear disguised with a polite smile. The nice guy image is built on a deep fear of rejection, fear of confrontation, fear of being seen as anything less than agreeable. So instead of showing up with truth and confidence, the nice guy shapeshifts. He becomes what he assumes people want him to be. He avoids his truth and says what's comfortable. He avoids setting limits and lets others push his boundaries to avoid conflict. His actions aren't based on real values, but on the need for acceptance. He doesn't do what's right. He does what won't upset anyone. The nice guy agrees too easily. He says yes when he means no. He says sorry when he has no reason to. He stays quiet when something doesn't sit well. He lets others take his energy, time, and attention without ever questioning it. All because deep down, he's scared of being disliked. He believes if he's just kind enough, polite enough, helpful enough, then maybe he'll finally be accepted and loved. But that's not how it works. It never did. What ends up happening is people learn they can walk over him, they can demand disrespect and take from him, while he just smiles through it all. And the more he accepts it, the more people expect it. It becomes his normal. People pleasing isn't noble, it's a survival tactic. Somewhere along the road, the nice guy learned that staying small and agreeable kept him safe. Maybe it started in childhood, where avoiding punishment or chaos meant staying quiet. Maybe it came from past relationships where disagreement led to emotional withdrawal or rejection. So he adjusted. He toned himself down. He tried to be more likable, less noticeable. He became a human mirror, always reflecting what the room wanted. But in doing that, he abandoned himself again and again. What makes it even harder is the illusion that he's doing something good. Nice guys convince themselves they're taking the high road, that their silence is strength, that their self-sacrifice makes them better men. They confuse fear for kindness. They think that avoiding conflict is the same as being wise, but it's not. Staying quiet in the face of disrespect isn't grace, it's surrender. Saying yes when you want to say no isn't kind, it's dishonest to yourself. This pattern bleeds into everything. At work, the nice guy doesn't ask for what he's earned. He doesn't speak up in meetings. He downplays his own ideas and lets others take credit. He's afraid of seeming too confident or bold. In relationships, he silences his needs, thinking that love comes from giving more, being less. He begins to resent the very people he tries to keep happy. In friendships, he ends up drained, giving constantly, but no one gives back in return. He becomes the go-to support system for everyone else, but no one shows up for him, not when it truly matters. Being the nice guy isn't about being good, it's about being scared, and that fear chips away at his potential, his worth, and eventually his sense of self. Until one day he looks in the mirror and doesn't recognize who he's become. A man who's always there for everyone, but never for himself. When you're always nice, always agreeable, always on call, people stop seeing it as generosity. They start seeing it as something they can use. Being too nice becomes a burden. What starts out as a hope to be appreciated turns into a pattern of being used. People stop thanking you. They stop noticing your effort. They begin to expect it. It becomes your default. Human nature doesn't always reward consistency with gratitude. It often meets it with indifference. The more you give without setting boundaries, the more people assume that's just who you are. You're the guy who answers every call, says yes to every favor, adjusts to every sudden plan. You never voice your discomfort, so they assume it doesn't exist. They don't realize you're frustrated because you've trained them not to notice. This is how resentment grows. It begins quietly in the small moments you bite your tongue. You start noticing how little others offer you in return, how quickly they vanish when you're in need. But you don't speak up. Because nice guys don't stir the pot. Instead, you keep showing up, keep saying yes, keep acting like you're fine, and they keep believing it. Most of the time, people aren't intentionally cruel. They're just responding to what you've allowed. If you teach them that your time has no value, they'll act like it's free. If you show them you'll always adjust, they won't ask if it's okay. If you never claim your worth, they won't guess it for you. Being overlooked isn't always about others being selfish. It's often about you never drawing the line. What makes it worse is that the nice guy believes he's doing something right. He thinks that selflessness equals goodness, that putting himself last makes him a better man. But what he misses is this. People respect strength more than sacrifice. They respect boundaries more than silence. They respect directness more than endless flexibility. When you're always the one who adjusts, who absorbs, who avoids friction, people don't admire you, they use you. Your flexibility becomes their tool, and when you finally reach your breaking point and pull back, they're confused. Not because you changed, but because they never really saw you. They didn't see a man with his own needs. They saw someone built to make life easier for them. This is the tragedy of being too nice. What starts as a desire to be loved becomes a life of being invisible. Your kindness gets ignored. Your presence gets taken for granted. Your time gets disrespected. Because when you give and never stand firm, people forget that what you give comes at a cost. Being the nice guy doesn't get you the loyalty, respect, or admiration you hope for. Most of the time, it gets you the opposite. As you get pushed aside, overlooked, taken for a ride, you think if you're just more patient, more helpful, more forgiving, that people will finally see your worth. You think showing how reliable, caring, and easygoing you are will make them cherish you. But that's not how it works. They don't see you as worthy. They see you as easy. Easy to guilt, easy to pressure, easy to manipulate. You're not being chosen. You're being used out of convenience, time, or effort. They don't feel they need to meet your standards because you don't show any. You just go with whatever happens, never pushing back, never challenging anyone, never making them earn their place in your life. That doesn't inspire loyalty, it encourages laziness. They give you the bare minimum and they already know you'll still be there, smiling and supportive whenever they decide to show up again. The truth is, most people don't value what they get without having to work for it. When you keep giving and never asking, always showing up but never setting boundaries, people begin to treat your presence like it's automatic. They stop seeing you as a person and start seeing you as a convenience, someone they can drain, lean on when it suits them, ignore when it doesn't, and toss aside when they're done. You become the backup option, the safety net, the emotional support who never needs anything in return. In relationships, this becomes even more obvious. You're always there, always understanding, always forgiving, even when they disrespect you. You think you're proving your worth, showing how solid and loving you are, but really, you're teaching them to treat you like a doormat. You're showing them they can mistreat you, disappear, come and go whenever they want, and you'll still be waiting, hoping they'll one day appreciate you, but they don't. And they won't, because you've shown them that no matter what they do, you'll stay. There's no reason for them to improve. When you've already shown them you'll accept worse. Real loyalty comes when people realize you won't tolerate being used. It comes when they know your time, your energy, and your presence are not automatic. They're earned. They're not free. When you stop being overly agreeable and start enforcing clear limits, some people will drift away. That's not a loss. That's insight. That's the filter at work. The ones who remain are the ones who respect you, not because you gave them everything, but because you made them show up with integrity, effort, and honesty. Being too kind doesn't win you love. It gets you ignored. Being too available doesn't earn loyalty. It gets you taken for granted. People don't commit to those chasing their approval. They commit to the ones who demand respect. And respect starts the moment you stop trying to earn it through self-sacrifice. When you stop being the nice guy, you start seeing reality more clearly. You stop pretending. You stop hiding your discomfort behind fake smiles and forced patience. And when that mask falls away, people's real intentions start to surface. It's a harsh but needed wake-up call. The dynamics you thought were mutual suddenly reveal themselves as one-sided, manipulative, or dependent on your willingness to bend. You start recognizing who genuinely respects you and who only enjoyed the version of you that never stood his ground. The people who used to call you such a great guy start acting distant or cold when you assert a boundary. They like the you who always said yes, the one who apologized even when you weren't wrong, the one who avoided conflict even when it meant betraying yourself. But now that you're speaking your truth, saying no, and drawing lines, they're uneasy. Not because you're wrong, but because you're no longer easy to control. You begin to see who stayed in your life because of what you provided and who remained because of who you truly are. That kind of clarity doesn't always feel good. In fact, at first, it often feels like loss. Friendships fade, relationships shift. People say you've changed, but what they're really reacting to is the fact that their free access to you has been revoked. You're no longer emotionally available on demand. You've stopped prioritizing everyone else's comfort while ignoring your own. And when that happens, the ones who were only around for what you gave them start to disappear. You also develop a deeper awareness of your own patterns. You start to notice how much of your life was driven by the fear of letting others down. How often you kept silent, backed off, or made yourself smaller just to avoid upsetting someone else. It wasn't just that people overlooked you. You allowed it. You believed that giving yourself up would lead to love or belonging. But now you can finally see it for what it is. Being the nice guy wasn't only about being kind, it was about staying safe. It was a way to survive. And once you let go of that mindset, you realize just how much of your identity wasn't truly you, it was protection. It was performance. With that realization comes strength. Quiet, grounded strength. The kind that doesn't need to shout to be heard or fight to be respected. You stop chasing approval. You stop worrying about being liked. Instead, you focus on whether people are showing up with honesty, consistency, and effort. You're no longer out to impress or appease. You're watching. You're listening. And most importantly, you're deciding. Not everyone will make it through that shift. Some will call you arrogant. Some will say you've become selfish or distant. But what they're really saying is this: you're no longer easy to manipulate. And that might be the most truthful feedback you'll ever receive. Clarity can be uncomfortable, but it's necessary, because when you finally see people for who they are, without the cloud of your old behavior, you can start creating relationships that are actually mutual and grounded in respect. When you stop being the nice guy, everything changes. Not just how you feel about yourself, but how others react to you. You no longer disappear into the background. You're no longer skipped over in conversations, overlooked in decisions, or forgotten in relationships. Instead, you begin to stand out, not because you're louder, not because you're seeking attention, but because you now carry a strong sense of self. You no longer shrink away from discomfort. You no longer soften your voice to avoid upsetting people. You speak with confidence. You move with intention. And people sense that. When you have limits, people notice. When you say no without guilt, when you stay firm without getting angry, it changes the way they respond to you. You're not trying to be everyone's favorite. And ironically, that's what earns you real respect, because they can feel it. You're not desperate for their approval. You're not chasing after validation. And that makes you different. That makes you powerful. People admire those who value themselves. They respect those who protect their time, energy, and emotional space. And that kind of respect doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from controlling yourself, knowing who you are and refusing to apologize for it. The nice guy waters himself down so no one gets offended. He's constantly editing himself, questioning his instincts, changing how he acts to avoid conflict. But in doing so, he loses something vital. He fades into the background. People stop noticing him, not because he's not there, but because he's not present. He's too careful, too filtered, too worried about being liked to ever really be seen. But when you stop fearing disapproval, everything shifts. You stop entering rooms hoping you're good enough. You start walking in like you belong there, because you do. Not because you earned it by pleasing others, but because you finally recognize your worth. And that understanding, it's quiet, but unshakable. It's in your posture, it's in your presence, it's in your tone. Loyalty doesn't come from how much you give, it comes from how much you demand in return. When you're too nice, people feel like they don't have to earn your respect, your time, your presence, because you've never made them work for it. It's in the way you speak directly without needing to soften the truth. It's in how you look people in the eye without shrinking back. It's in how you walk away from situations that don't serve you without feeling the need to explain or apologize. Respect isn't earned by always saying the right thing or trying to be the most agreeable person in the room. It's earned by being authentic, by showing consistency, by standing on your values and not backing down, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. When people notice that you don't collapse under pressure, when they realize you can say no and actually mean it, when they see you're not someone they can guilt or control, they treat you differently. Even those who don't particularly like you will hesitate before challenging you, because strength that's rooted in discipline and clarity causes people to pause. It makes them take notice. You don't have to be cruel, and you don't need to be loud, but you do have to be steady. That steadiness is what converts attention into respect, not through fear, not through dominance, but through presence. The presence of someone who no longer chases approval because he already respects who he's become. When you stop trying to be the nice guy, your whole path changes. You begin to win, not just in surface level ways, but in the deep areas that shape your entire life. The kind of winning that comes from knowing who you are, from being clear, from stepping fully into the version of yourself you were meant to be before you began shrinking to fit into everyone else's comfort zone. The nice guy loses because he's always in negotiation with his potential. He knows what he wants, but he delays. He second guesses. He holds back just to make sure others stay comfortable. He waits to be invited to speak, to lead, to take charge of what matters. And while he's waiting, life keeps moving. But when you finally release that craving for approval, everything starts to shift. You stop holding back your ideas, your ambition, your voice. You stop wondering whether you're allowed to stand tall. You start moving, not from doubt, but from conviction. You don't sit there waiting for a signal anymore. You become the signal. The moment you stop seeking validation is the moment you start living on a different level. You get sharper, more focused, more loyal to your purpose than to other people's opinions. Success isn't drawn to hesitation, it's drawn to clarity. And the nice guy is by nature unsure. He waits for recognition, hoping that by being kind, agreeable, and unproblematic, someone will reward him. But life doesn't hand out prizes for being safe. There's no reward for staying neutral. What makes a difference is bravery. The bravery to speak up, to take bold steps, to leave behind anything that clashes with your purpose. When you stop being the nice guy, you start protecting your energy. You stop giving yourself away to things that drain you. You stop letting people use you when it suits them. This opens up room for deeper connections, room for meaningful progress, room for higher expectations. You start drawing in better people, better work, better results. The ones who used to manipulate you fade away. The ones who admire honesty and strength begin to appear. You stop being ignored and start being remembered. You go from being barely tolerated to being deeply valued. And that change isn't just about how others see you. It's about how you see yourself. And you stop trying to earn love by giving yourself up. You start earning respect by stepping up. You trust your voice more. You own your choices more fully. You set your own standards, not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you finally believe you're worthy of more. And that belief is what powers everything else. You go after goals more fiercely. You cut off distractions with less hesitation. You build discipline, not because you fear falling short, but because you refuse to keep playing small. This is when the shift becomes real. You're no longer reacting to what life throws at you. You're the one building it. And in that creation, in that refusal to be confined by what makes others comfortable, you start winning. Not once in a while, not by luck, but over and over. Because now you're playing the game by your own rules. Here's the truth. Being the nice guy isn't noble. It's a cage. It's a role born from fear, not from confidence. It keeps you quiet, keeps you restrained, and keeps you running after things that should be coming to you. But when you finally drop that act, life doesn't fall apart. It begins. You start to see things for what they really are. You stop being overlooked. You stop being taken for granted. You begin to carry yourself differently. You demand more. And most importantly, you start winning, not on someone else's terms, but on your own. Not everyone will be a fan of the new you. That's okay. You weren't made to be everyone's favorite. You were made to be real, to live with truth and intention, to carry yourself with quiet strength. When you stop being the nice guy, you don't become bitter, you become bold. You don't turn selfish, you become self-respecting. You finally stop living in response to what others want from you and start living in alignment with what you know is right for you. That's when everything shifts. That's when the world starts responding differently. That's when life finally starts answering.